All right. So, so we are going through this. This is a very, to me, this is a very important topic. We need to understand this, how the, there are four stages, the chakra flowers means. The chakra is, I mean, all these things are already existing. So it is our perception of it, is basically changing. So it's a consciousness which is expanding. As the expansion of this consciousness, we are seeing these stages at each chakra, right? So coexistence. So it starts with the coexistence. As it is blooming, right? As we are getting adjusted to it. So we kind of coexist with it and we feel the nearness with it. And then identicality. Identicality is the most important thing. All the spiritual practice is to create that identicality. What do we identify with? Suppose if I say, as a Srikant, how do I identify with myself? So first, my identity is the way how I look, and then what I know, what's my profession, what I possess. I identify with my family, my culture. So many things, so many identities, so many layers of identity. But all these layers are external to me. So if I say, this question always comes up in spirituality, who am I? To me, that who am I question, just because we ask this who am I, it doesn't mean we identify ourselves with that inner essence. How many ever times I ask this who am I question, I only answer this who am I according to my perception of what that I is. In another, schools of thought, I is identified as an ego construct. So that ego construct always thinking of that I-ness as with the possessions and the kind of position I hold in the society, right? But slowly through meditation, the definition of that I changes. Through spiritual practice and transmission, especially transmission. The transmission gives the perception of the real I, that inner essence. So when I start identifying with that inner essence, all this outer identicality drops. Then we start to realize, we start to recognize the real I, the inner essence. And when it goes into the state of merger, when it merges, then even this I disappears. So we're going to learn about this I today. Right? So we talked about the identicality. If I think of any other points, we can always go back to the identicality. The merger. Merger is union, oneness. Yoga. Yoga means merger. So the yuj is a Sanskrit word for union. It is the same root word for yoga too. Sayujyata is the final stage. So merger is known as Sayujyata, is the final stage of blossoming of chakra. So your consciousness is now in complete resonance with the higher vibratory level. There, no ripples, only total uniformity. The previous stages of coexistence, nearness, identicality, are a thing of the past. Now the stage is all set for the final merger. A drop falls into the ocean. Is the drop in the ocean or the ocean in the drop? Merger with chakra leads you to a trace-like state, trance-like state in meditation. There is a feeling of oneness in which the prevailing consciousness has dissolved into a new level of consciousness. This is now the new normal for you. So here the word, first consciousness needs to be understood before how the consciousness is dissolving into a new level of consciousness. Suppose you're standing in front of an ocean. At the shore, you see a lot of waves, the waves going, the wave formation, everything you see. As you move into the middle of the ocean, what happens? It's calm. Those waves disappear. It is the same ocean which you are looking at the shore. It is the same ocean when you move to the middle of the ocean, correct? And Floridians know it very well. So what is changing? It's the same water at the shore. It is the same water in the middle of the ocean. But its behavior, its pattern, its vibratory state is what is changing. So as we move to this, what we call the higher consciousness, it is called higher consciousness because it has a different vibratory state. Correct? So as we are moving closer to this merger, just like how we are moving into the middle of ocean, there are no waves at all. Same thing here. As we go to the higher consciousness, the lower consciousness dissolves, means it disappears. That vibratory state is no longer there. Correct? So now, what happens once you are in that state, even for like few minutes, it becomes your normal state for you. Like I was saying all the time, like, this example, before you get into the swimming pool, you feel wet. I mean, right when you step into the swimming pool, you feel wet. But after you are there for a while, you're not thinking about that wetness at all. Same thing here. Once you merge into that conscious state, that becomes your normal. Once you identify, so any conscious state we merge into or we go into, it becomes our natural state. Once it becomes our natural state, there is no cognition of it. Because remember, I keep repeating this, cognition is only because of the contrast. So we wonder, I mean, if just because it's a higher state doesn't mean we feel it all the time, because it becomes a normal state. To feel also there is a contrast. So what happens in our meditation because of the transmission, which is at the highest, as the transmission is received, we are moving to a much higher state. So then we feel the contrast where we were. Our position is known because of the transmission. So securing the condition at a chakra is possible only through merge of consciousness. If you are separate, then there is a possibility of losing that condition. But when you have merged, nothing can take it away. So merging gives security. Merging begets tenderness in the heart. When you feel these signs, make the inner condition dynamic by expressing it in your behavior. When you speak, act, think, or look, infuse your inner condition in these actions. So now we need to understand these statements little bit differently. So our inner condition must manifest in our outer aspects, correct? So always this feedback is at the physical and mental level, because that is what we cognize the most, and that is what we understand the most, that is what we perceive the most. So even the deepest transmission meditation, we say, oh, I have a tintile, some vibrations here and there, we point at the physical body. Reason, the feedback from the deepest is sort of manifesting at the outer physical level, and that's what we are perceiving. And it is manifesting at our outer mental level, and that's what we are perceiving. So we can see that there is a huge change in our pattern of thinking, our pattern of behavior, our patterns of approaching the world. But sometimes it's very difficult because we are naturally set in those patterns. In spite of the higher spiritual conditions, they don't reflect very well in our outer behavior. But anyways, in general, it should happen like this. So this will create balance between inside and outside and stabilize the merger. So merger creates love, and love dissolves the ego. When the ego dissolves, consciousness expands. With merger, your consciousness becomes one with the new level. When the merger is complete in some of subsequent meditations, condition is as if everything is gone. So there is no impression upon the heart. See, all these impressions, like suppose if I dislike something, then there is a huge trauma. At a mental state, the trauma is in the conscious state, the trauma is at the deeper level, at the soul. But when we bring love into our existence, what happens is the trauma disappears. When the trauma disappears, there's a tranquility. There is, we feel, oh, wow, this is the best condition I've experienced. So here, love is an automatic expression of the merger. So our, idea of love is, something we like. Our idea of hate is something we don't like. So it's again that love is very external oriented. But this love is a state of a being. From that state of being, anything it looks at is only in a loving way. So all this trauma disappears when we bring love into our existence. So they worry that something has blocked their consciousness because they don't feel anything. So this is another thing we need to understand as we go deeper. So the meditation is not deep or observing, but it's not superficial either. You feel only sense of profoundness. Sometimes such a condition can confuse meditators. They worry that something has blocked their consciousness because they don't feel anything. But few days this condition makes way for the next cycle, flowering of the chakra. So this is very important to understand. When we go sort of deep into our condition, we feel that we are lost somewhere in that abyss, but it is not really that. Because now we are in a state to accept, absorb everything. So there is no resistance. There is no resistance to anything. We are used to that resistance. In everything we see, we are forming an opinion. You look at a person, you are forming an opinion. You look at a book, you read, even before you understood what you have read, you formed an opinion already. When somebody is telling something to you, we don't listen. We already put our filters to what we are listening. That's why, in the scriptures, the first step of spirituality is Shravanam. Shravanam means listening. We don't know how to listen. This listening is a very important aspect. We don't hear, we don't listen, we don't absorb what is being told, because before we even heard it, we formed an opinion. Or sometimes we think we already know it. We analyze, we bring logic into the picture. So this logic is like that, there's a very nice story which explains a donkey which is tied to a pole. In order to escape, it goes round the pole. As it is going round, the rope is tightening. The rope is going around the pole. So it's tightening and tightening. At the end, it gets stuck to the pole. It cannot even move. And that's exactly how our logic functions. And we are applying our logic as we are listening. And we think we are intelligent to put that logic, very intelligent to put that logic or bring out that logic. And we are, it's like a bee, a fly stuck in the spider's web. The more it moves, the more it gets stuck. You see the point there? So we are moving too much instead of hearing and listening. So the whole aspect of what we are listening eludes us. It doesn't go in. We don't make use of it really. Because one is we always think we already know. So that's why, or we already know because suppose if I am, then again, all these aspects of beliefs come into the picture. If I am talking to your belief system, you are accepting and you are listening to me. Why? Because you are listening to me because what I am saying you already know. You already subscribe to that idea. But I might be telling something very differently, but we put our filters on. So we only want to hear what we want to hear. We only want to hear what we already subscribe to. We cannot accept anything new. So that is why, by and large, humanity has not grown. Even in spirituality, just because we are practicing heartfulness meditation, we have not become anything special. Unless what is written here, we feel it, we experience, we know it, we become sensitive to it. It should bring more and more humility, not pride. But without even knowing anything, without even understanding anything, we feel pride. So who is the loser here? We are the losers because we are not applying the principles the way it should be. Right? So this is very important aspect we need to understand. So unless attitude changes, even the merger does not help. So merger does not bring attitude. So attitudes is something we cultivate. But merger gives us the ability to cultivate the right attitude. Without merger, it is very difficult to cultivate that attitude. So all these things go hand in hand, right? So we must utilize it to, evolve consciously throughout our life. And that's what is heartfulness is about. It's not a belief system. It's not asking you to believe in something. It is asking you to evolve into something. Okay, I'll stop here. Any questions, comments, observations? All right. I'll stop recording.